Chapter 11, Lords of Nothing. I was standing at the bus stop when Maria and Lucy pulled up in front of me and told me to get in the car. Maria asked what I was doing so far away from the neighborhood so late. I told her I was visiting my girlfriend and that what she had taught me worked. She laughed and mentioned that if I wanted to learn some more, to let her know. I guess Myra and Yolanda had not told Lucy about what happened between her mother and me. She just sat there looking at us and wondering what the hell we were talking about. Maria asked me where I lived so she could drop me off. I told her that my mom was in Puerto Rico and that I was staying with my stepbrother, Hector. Maria told me that if I ever needed something from her, not to hesitate, to ask. I asked Maria to drop me off by Tule so I could hang out and maybe get high. Rican, Papo, and all the rest of the lords were out there. They began to chant, "Child molester," when they see me get out of Maria's car. Maria ignored them and drove away. Sexspot began teasing me about having sex with an old lady instead of her. I responded by telling her that the old lady was 4 times better looking than she was. Everybody laughed except for Snake. Snake was in love with Sexspot because she was the only girl that ever let him have sex with her. I didn't know that all the other girls ignored him because of his looks. I thought that because he was a lord, he had his choice of whichever girl hung around with him, but that was not the case. Snake told me, "You better watch what you say, you fucking punk, before I whoop your ass. Keep your lady in check. Nobody is desperate enough to fuck her except your ugly ass," I responded. Snake made a move toward me. I prepared to fight him. Pothead grabbed me from behind and held me in a headlock. Rican stepped between us and told us to chill out. Snake persisted. He said, "That punk ain't no lord. Why you protecting him?" Rican told him that I was from the hood and we shouldn't be fighting each other. Still, Snake persisted. I stood next to Papo and smoked a joint while Snake argued with Rican. I got into a conversation with Papo and forgot all about Snake. Snake charged me and threw me to the ground. He tried to hit me, but Rican and Papo pulled him off before he had the chance. I got up and went after Snake. Rican grabbed and pushed me away. I grabbed my balance and fell. Rican stood over me and screamed, "Take your little ass home before you get killed. You're not a lord and don't forget it." I got up and walked away, mad as hell. I couldn't believe the lords, especially Rican, would treat me the way that they did. I thought they would be fair and let me fight Snake. Instead, they ganged up against me. I got to Hector's, got some weed from a junkie, and locked myself in my room. I was too pissed to go to Jenny's house. I didn't even think about her. I smoked a couple of joints and then went to sleep. I woke up about noon the next day. Hector's girlfriend, Missy, told me that one of my friends had just come by looking for me. I looked out the window and saw Papo across the street by his house. Papo saw me and motioned for me to come down. I cleaned up and went outside. Papo, his brothers, and I went to Clemente Field to play football. We played a couple of games, then split up. Papo and I went to Tule, and his brothers went back home. It was pretty cold out, so we went to the Lords' clubhouse. I didn't feel right about going to the clubhouse, but Papo told me Rican wanted to talk to me. "Man, I don't want to be a lord, not after last night," I told Papo. Papo explained that after I left, Snake kept insisting on fighting me one-on-one. Rican and Little Chino decided to let us fight. Papo was to take me to the clubhouse so the fight could take place. I began to wonder if they had decided to kill me. I decided to take my chances with the lords. If things got out of hand, I thought I could just tell Rican that I wanted to become a lord. It seemed like all the lords and lordettes had slept in the clubhouse. They were all there except for Rican. Snake began talking shit as soon as he saw me. Little Chino told him to cool out until Rican got there. Little Chino and Papo were the only ones who were being friendly toward me. All the other lords were hostile and kept trying to instigate a confrontation. I stood quietly smoking weed and drinking wine with Little Chino and Papo. By the time Rico got there, I was pretty high. I was also upset about all the bullshit and nasty things the lords were saying about me. When Rican walked in, Pothead said, "It's party time." Snake walked up to me, got in my face and said, "Let's take it outside, punk." He walked outside and all the lords followed. I took off my coat and went out. The lords had formed a circle in the alley behind the clubhouse. Snake stood in the middle waiting for me. As soon as I walked into the circle, he punched me twice in the face. I had blood dripping out of my nose. I felt the same rage I had experienced when Pedro beat me. My mind went blank. All I could think about was killing Snake for hitting me. Nobody had hit me since my mother sent me back to the city. I wasn't about to let anybody else start abusing me. The next thing I knew, I felt somebody grab me and pull me back. Then I hear Papo telling me to be cool. I told him to let me go, that I was going to kill that ugly bastard. I thought the Lords were ganging up on me and began to struggle. I was held until I calmed down. When I was released, I realized that there were 4 guys holding me: Little Chino, Papo, Pothead, and Crazy One. Snake was on the floor holding his midsection and bleeding from his nose and mouth. He was mumbling something about going to get a gun to shoot me. Rican told him that he got beat fair and square, so he better just forget about it and leave me alone. Rican helped me up and told us to shake hands. Snake didn't shake my hand. He walked off angry. Sexpot ran after him. Everybody else went into the clubhouse. I knew I had done it, but I didn't even remember hitting Snake. The rage I went into was fiercer than I'd ever been with Pedro. I was not aware of what I had done or how I had done it. It was as if my body was programmed to attack. I didn't know how to fight. I didn't even know what fighting felt like. Snake had a swollen eye with a cut above it. Snake had a swollen eye with a cut above it. He had a broken nose and both his lips were busted, but I didn't remember even hitting him. I wonder if my mother remembers hitting me. Crazy One put his arm around me and invited me to smoke a joint. He said I was as crazy as he was. Crazy One got his nickname because he had overdosed on Valium when he was about 13, and ever since, Crazy One got his nickname because he had overdosed on Valium when he was about 13, and ever since then, he was in and out of mental hospitals. He was a 20-year-old white boy who, along with his brothers, had helped out many Puerto Rican families when they first moved into the neighborhood. His brothers were also members of the Lords. One of them was doing life in jail for killing one. His brothers were also members of the Lords. One of them was doing life in jail for killing some vice lords. Crazy One's family was one of the few white families who remained in the Humboldt Park area. He lit up a joint and we began walking down Claremont Street to Clemente Field. Rican and Little Chino joined us shortly. Little Chino told me not to worry about Snake and advised me to kick his ass again if he messed with me. Rican disagreed. He told me that if Snake approached me, I should ignore him and let Rican know about it. Rican said if I were to kick Snake's ass again without letting him know what was happening, the Lords would have to take care of me. I asked Rican why it had to be that way. He said, Snake is a Lord, you're not, then walked ahead of me. We walked through Clemente Field and then headed down Western Avenue. We were headed to a restaurant that was located on Western Avenue in Haddon Street, right across the street from the high school. The place was a school hangout, but since it was the weekend, it was empty. We got there and ordered some food, then started playing with the pinball machines. After a couple minutes, Little Chino stepped outside and said something about some Chai West coming down the street. The guys stopped what they were doing and went outside. I got curious and followed. The Chai West was a gang of white boys, just like the Gaylords. Their feelings about Puerto Ricans were basically the same. There were about 6 of them walking right towards us. Crazy One took off his red and black sweater and handed it to me. I stood by the door as the guys walked toward the Chai West. Crazy One pulled out a switchblade from his back pocket and opened it. The Chai West yelled their gang name and began to scatter around the street. They began yelling racially derogatory remarks at us. Dirty spics, pork chops. Go back to the island and take the roaches you brought with you, they said. The Lords went after them. The Chai West guys ran in every direction and the Lords followed. Seconds later, they were all out of sight. I didn't know whether to go after them or go back to the hood for help. I had to keep my tough image, so I decided to join them. I stepped out of the restaurant and went looking for the Lords. I hadn't walked past 2 houses when I felt so. I turned around and I was pushed to the ground. I looked up and there, standing in front of me, were two white boys, both in their early 20s. Both were Chi West. They snatched Crazy One's sweater, punched and kicked me, then ran off. I lay there on the ground in pain, swearing that I would get those assholes back. The Lords came back and picked me up off the concrete. Crazy One immediately asked for his sweater. I told him that the Chi West took it from me. He went ballistic. He grabbed me by the throat and told me that I better get his sweater back or he was going to kill me. Rican saw the fear in my face and stepped between us. He told me not to worry and he would get the sweater back. When we got back to the hood, everybody already knew what had happened. Crazy One had walked ahead of us screaming and mumbling about the whole incident. I told Papa what happened. He told me that I was in big trouble. Little Chino told us to come to the clubhouse later that night. We both assumed that I was going to be beat up or violated, as they called it. I couldn't figure out why losing a sweater was such a big deal. Papa explained that since Crazy One told me to hold the sweater, he would probably get a violation also. I wasn't a lord. By putting me in charge of colors, he had violated a rule. Gang colors are precious to their members. Gang members are willing to maim, kill, and die for colors that have a special meaning only to them. It would be one thing if they kept this practice among themselves, but all too often an innocent bystander gets involved in this stupid game. At any given time, someone could get shot, beat up, or killed because of the color of the clothes they're wearing. That night, we reported to the clubhouse at about 8 p.m. When we got there, all the lords that were my age were told to step outside. I was instructed to close the door behind them. As I expected, the meeting was about the sweater. The lords asked me what I was going to do about getting the lords' colors back. Little Chino explained that they were going to wait until it got warmer outside. That way, there would be a better chance of catching the Chi West hanging out. The Chi West were probably expecting quick retaliation, but the lords were going to let them forget before making their move. Ricky pointed at me and said, "You're going to get that sweater back." He pointed at Papo and said, "You're going to help him since you brought him around." "Fuck them blank punks. We'll get our colors back right now if you want," Papo said. I didn't say a word. I was afraid to even look anybody in the eye. "It's cool," Little Chino said. "We'll wait and see." All the other lords were let back inside the clubhouse. We all began getting high. Shortly afterward, I was told I had to leave. I would not be allowed back in the clubhouse until I got the Lord's sweater back from the Chi West. I thought Papa would come with me, but he only walked me to the door. I was on my own.